This, That, and Another, PPL's official podcast about the library and the communities we serve. My name is Jay.
And I'm Sophia.
Summer is ending, fall is almost here, and that brings forth a lot of opportunities for creatives in Rhode Island.
With the entry into fall, we won't have pumpkin spice lattes, but we will have the application for the 2025 Creative Fellow coming out soon. The Creative Fellow this year in this cycle will create new original work in the field of sound and music. The Creative Fellow performs in-depth research in our historical collections using images, text, and source material for inspiration. Those applications will be due October 25th, so look out for more information coming soon and how to apply.
Later in the podcast, speaking of creatives in this area, we'll be talking to Eli Kauffman, whose exhibition Wheel of Fortune is on view at PPL right now.
Yeah, on the ground floor lobby and in the Updike room during regular hours. We will also have an opening reception Monday, September 23rd from 5 to 6:30 p.m. to honor Eli's work here. Wheel of Fortune is such a cool exhibition to have here at the library. There's so many different spaces. There's a lot of white walls. And Eli's paintings are life-size. They're large. I think the largest is 5 feet by 6 foot, which is located in the Updike room. These paintings are massive, and it's a site-specific art installation by Eli. They're colorful, and they explore the breadth and intensity of young adulthood, queer intimacy, and collective perseverance. This is also the first time that we've utilized the Updike room as an exhibition space. So there's a lot of different material culture, varying types of ephemera, and items that feel profound and revisiting the moments of daily life. Eli also talks about their work as slowing fast moments down so we can sit with them. Eli's from Salt Lake City and is currently based in Providence, Rhode Island. They graduated from Rhode Island School of Design with a BFA in 2022. Their work has been shown in France, San Francisco, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles. And they were recently rewarded the Risca Make Art Award from the Rhode Island State Council of the Arts. And 2 of the paintings that are featured on the ground floor above the nonfiction section, the new nonfiction section, were specifically made for the library itself.
Sophia, as you know, creatives here in Rhode Island come from a variety of places.
And ages.
So let's talk about the Young Creators Program and bring in our special guest right now, Senior Children's Librarian, Miss Bonnie.
So for listeners out there, Bonnie is someone that everyone in this library would protect with their life. I don't know if you've seen the recent TikTok trends or office trends where in libraries or in office spaces, people will take the thing that is really important to them during a fire. If the building was on fire, Bonnie would be the collective thing that everyone would make sure was out and safe. And we love Bonnie so much, and it's so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
How long have you been at PPL so far?
44 years.
44 years. So what have you seen change in that 44-year time? I bet there's a lot.
Well, I probably would say the primacy of technology is the biggest change. I mean, when I first started, there were no computers. We had a regular card catalog. Sometimes I wonder what I did all day because now I sit in front of a computer most of the day, and that's the focus of the hub of everything I do. So it's kind of hard to remember. But fundamentally, children's work hasn't changed all that much. It's just the tools that we use to facilitate things.
It's funny. I have people that whenever I mention you, they'll say, I had Miss Bonnie when I was young, and now my children go to story times and to Miss Bonnie at the library. What is that like to see people that you spoke to as kids grow up and now bring their own children?
Well, let me tell you, it happens very, very fast. I mean, the woman who has been doing sewing workshops for us, Erin, she has 3 children, which for Ann and I, who's my coworker, seems like they were born yesterday and they came to our story hour. And I spoke to her the other day, and her son, he's a senior in high school, and the other 2 in 9th and 7th grade, and just happened in a blink of an eye. So I also did have someone come in the other day who I originally started working in the Mount Pleasant branch. And this young woman She was a shelver. So she was probably about 16 or 17. She actually came in the other day with her grandchild. So she looks exactly the same. So, but she and I were very connected. She and I were just sort of on the same wavelength. And so it was nice to see her. I mean, mostly what's really cool is because in this kind of work, and probably this is true of teachers, you don't really fully understand the impact that you have had. So, I've had people come up to me in the mall and say, "Oh, Bonnie, I remember when you came and read stories to me in the 3rd grade at Academy Avenue School, which doesn't even exist anymore. And you had on a red dress and you read Where the Wild Things Are. And you're the reason I came to the library. I fell in love with books and then I became a teacher. And you're the reason." And I'm like, whoa, so you really don't know.
Bonnie, you put so much care into all of the programs that you do, the story hours that you have. And I would love to hear more about the Young Creators program that you have going. I know that there's different types. This one coming up is the Creative Writing Workshop.
This is true. So I started this program about 2 years ago. I was very lucky when I was young. My parents exposed me to a lot of things. We went to the Metropolitan Museum in New York. We used to go to ballet. We went to concerts. And those things play a very important part in my life and the life of my sister. So I want children to have the opportunities that perhaps they're not getting in their own lives. So we would have isolated programs. I'd have someone come in to do music for an hour. But then it kept going through my mind that I wanted them to have a fuller, richer experience. So as I said, about 2 years ago, I started Young Creators. So each program runs on Saturday morning from 10 to 12, 2 hours for 4 weeks. So they will get a bigger experience. And we're going to start this year on September 28th with creative writing. So the young man who's doing the program, Devin Mellon, he did a program last January. He works really well with kids. There's some people who have talents, but they don't work so well with children. So you have to find someone who has both a creative gift and also a rapport with kids. And Devin had that. So he has described his program as young writers will have a chance to explore their own stories, as well as to begin explore elements of writing they haven't yet considered. They'll have a chance to rewrite well-known stories, dramatize true personal stories, as well engage in collaborative writing, opening them up to new ideas and perspectives. So I wanted to come on the podcast today because we still have some openings. The classes aren't big, but they're for kids 7 to 12. And I'm hoping very much that more people will sign up.
What do you hope that they take away from these workshops?
Well, I'm hoping that children will have, as I had, an exposure to the full spectrum of the arts so that they will grow up to enjoy them, to appreciate them. But I think that in each class, there might be 1 or 2 children who say, I really love this writing business, or watercolors. I could just paint all day. And they might say to themselves, this is something I have to explore in greater depth. Maybe I'll become an artist. I didn't become an artist, but that doesn't mean that I don't love going to museums, and I have a real appreciation for it. However, my mother read to me from the time I was a baby. She took me to the library every week of my childhood, and there were books everywhere in my house. And what happened? I said, I really want to be a librarian. So, this is what I'm hoping. We do also have this program is going to run through October 19th. From October 26th through November 16th, we're going to have a theater program, which is going to be done by an educator from Trinity. And in the month of January, we're going to be having Erin, who I talked about earlier. She's coming back to do intermediate sewing.
And if you need more information on this, you can find information on the event calendar at provlib.org. We'll also put a note in the show notes. Earlier this spring, PPL held a 6-week intergenerational immigrant podcasting class. Here is one of the podcasts that came from the class.
Dear Gianna, I've been thinking about you as of recently. Sometimes it's because I'm forced to, sometimes it's because one of your favorite songs begins to play suddenly in the car stereo, and I'm filled with air I didn't know the world had. And sometimes you just want to make yourself known and give me a visual or two of what you go through daily, making sure I don't forget you. I know you remember it well. Eyes focused on the papers that your mother held in her hand containing ramblings you deemed as sweet. They weren't innocent, you knew that. It wasn't something you were ecstatic for anyone to find, but you were what you assumed was happy. That happiness will not find you for almost a decade. I'm sorry. Every single time you would go to Panama, you would come back beaten. I know you don't think that's noteworthy, but it is. It might be a bit surprising to you, but abuelas shouldn't be people who make you cower. They are women who make sure you're never hurt, who thrive to connect with you. Ask one of your classmates. Ask them if they still bathe with their grandmother, if they have to feel her hands all over them and her soapy back against their own, engulfing their small body whole. I promise you they will hopefully say no, that their grandmother actually knits them little scarves for Christmas, or that their grandmother actually gives them little caramels whenever they visit her. You'll probably question then why you're told you will have to lick up your own vomit when forced to eat things you hated while you felt the sting of a wooden spatula, splintered due to its only use. It will never make much sense, I'll tell you that much. I know you remember entering the psych ward, but don't remember walking out of it. You had stayed quiet, entranced with visuals of clocks and blurs before finally one of the nurses sat with you on the freezing cold floor. It was littered with crayons, the only writing utensil available, and you had reached for one to color in your nails when you finally spoke. That wax didn't come out for 4 months after that, and it will never come off your knees. Each time you look down, they're now permanently stained green. She does things that confuse me, you start. Like what? Yell at you? Yeah, but I mean like other things. She gave me these really cool aretes after she hit me. I wasn't standing still in the bathroom, but either way, they were pretty. She made them herself, and I think they look good on me, but they make me feel awful. You don't notice, but the nurse's expression changes. She blinks a bit more rapidly. Wait, why would you have to stand still? To take a picture of my hair. She did it every time she did something different with it. I just always tried to grab my toallita and she would get mad. You were trying to ramble on about something else, not about this. It was minuscule to you compared to everything else. But I'd rather spend time in the bathroom than the cabinet, you said. You didn't know that this would cause so many issues afterwards. Oh my god, that's not happening anymore, is right? No, I can't go to Panama because of COVID. Why? Her eyes make their way down to the incoherent scribbles on the page in front of you. For your safety. Abusive family members are no joke. This, Gianna, is when you were replaced. When you sunk deep within your mind, unable to resurface for years. You have been preserving yourself from facing the world, facing what comes after the realization that you will most likely never see your grandma again. You have so much pain in your body, and your mind cannot choose one to remember. You wake up every morning frightened to go to school, frightened to come home, frightened of women, frightened of men. It's fear that keeps you here, wandering inside the blank slate of my body, the first layer of myself. I, Eddie, do not know all you've gone through, sweetheart. But I'll find out soon. With talks to therapists and flashes of images I get weekly from you, I'm sure to figure out why I feel every bone in my body break cleanly in half when I hear your name. I love you, Gianna. Truly, wholeheartedly love you. I love you innocently, without expecting anything in return. I love you the way a child should be loved. I love you without belts, without showers, without insults. I love you with every drop of blood within me, like my own baby. I changed my name so you can feel like your own person. Not just a bag of bones, not just an extension of me. You are so much more human than I will ever be. I'm sorry. All my love, Eddie.
We're in the studio interview with Eli Kauffman. It's so wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I've never been a part of a podcast, and I also didn't know until recently that PPL had a podcast, which I'm thrilled about.
It's probably the best podcast that's ever existed.
I will also say maybe a lot of people don't know, so don't feel bad about it. We're still in our infancy stage. Eli, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you?
Yeah.
Why are you?
Yeah, not big questions that cause existential dread at all. I'm a 25-year-old artist living in Providence. I'm a huge fan of the library, which is how I ended up asking if I could do a show here. I read a lot. Right now I've checked out K. Tempest's The Bricks That Built the Houses, and I just finished Crying in H Mart. I am a working owner at a cafe in Fox Point called Small Format. I'm a member of Providence Bike Collective on the west side of town, just over the bridge in the Valley Olneyville area of town. And I also watch a lot of TV, and I like to knit. I like to hang out in bed and sketch ideas for new paintings while I watch bad reality television.
It is such a joy to have your artwork featured throughout the library on the ground floor and in the Updike room. Can you tell us a little bit about the paintings that we have here? What's the story behind them?
Yeah. This body of work is all primarily from 2024, and a lot of the works stem from a series of sketches of friends of mine and people who I'm close to, just going about everyday life and the kind of moments that happen during, a mundane activity that kind of bring it into a level of drama or a different world. And then there are a few pieces that are kind of riffing on the same poses or subject matter that I've used before. The largest piece in the Updike room is not a sequel, it's a reboot of a painting that I had done in 2022, 2021, because I like to revisit and reuse the same subject matter a lot. Sometimes I didn't get it right the first time, or something I've already done feels more interesting to explore than trying to bring a whole new composition out of thin air. So that, and then one of the pieces on the ground floor above the new arrivals are both paintings that I've done before, but I'm doing them again and again.
So the exhibition's called Wheel of Fortune. What inspired that name?
I like to think of naming conventions in paintings as kind of a way to help them talk to each other. So I, at one point, had done a lot of paintings where the titles of the works were the things that I thought the subjects would be saying to us, or what the viewer would be saying to the figures in the painting. And then this newer series, the naming convention has become tarot cards, which has been something I've thought about or featured in my work in the past. But more recently, I've been less interested in depicting actual tarot cards or the scenes on them, and more interested in the archetypes that come with the names of some of those cards, and the ways that those can maybe be used to help people relate the different paintings to each other and think about what phase of the journey are these figures in, or what role do they fill within this kind of ecosystem of different characters. So yeah, Wheel of Fortune kind of felt like the all-encompassing way to signify that this is the whole show, and then within that there's all the more minor cards listed as the works in the Updike room and on the ground floor.
You also describe in the description of the show your paintings to be something like a soap opera. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and also maybe a soap opera that has inspired you?
Yeah, no, I think about film and television with my work all the time. I think about the ways in which painting has influenced film, and then also the ways that now it's the other way around. iPhone photography has changed the way that we view perspective and space, and that has heavily influenced contemporary painting. And I love the tropes and the lessons that we can pull from television and kind of apply to still images like painting. So I'm always thinking about the structure of a soap opera is always taking a moment that like in reality might not be that dramatic, or maybe it is, but oftentimes they're heightening something that is not particularly intense, and they're cutting to it from so many different angles, adding music over top and slowing things down, adding slow motion clips, adding flashbacks, so that this moment that should be taking like 30 seconds becomes like a 10-minute cliffhanger at the end of an episode. Yeah. And that's basically the exact same thing as painting. Like you're taking this moment that would take a few seconds and you're drawing it out and you're turning it into this process where you're painting it for, up to a month maybe, and then you're creating a version of that moment that lives on for a very long time. And yeah, like those figures never leave that moment. They're always in it. And that's kind of how it feels when you're watching like the final minutes of a soap opera. Like they're stuck in that moment forever. But yeah, I would say that soap operas in particular, I haven't pulled a lot of imagery from them, though I do watch plenty of Grey's Anatomy. And some of the shows that I have, or shows and films that I have pulled more imagery from, are maybe more, coming of age stories. I love My So-Called Life and shows like that, and like Greg Araki films I pull from the lighting and the composition in those shots all the time. I'm also realizing I didn't mention just now, but one of the paintings in the show is a Love Island painting.
Oh my
God. It's in the Updike room. It's the like magenta pinkish painting. And I think about Love Island all the time, but also I was kind of in a phase when I made that of trying to figure out like how much I want to acknowledge the screen or the picture plane, because the painting itself already has a kind of a screen or a picture plane to it. And then when you're painting something that's implied to be inside of a laptop or a TV, that's like adding another layer to that. And so that's one of the ones where I had acknowledged the computer is in the shot, is in the frame.
Alex in Montana is the
Yeah. But then I've also been playing around with other versions of that where I don't acknowledge the laptop or the platform that the image is on. So there's another screenshot from a film is the Crash painting, which is from Cronenberg's Crash, based off of J.G. Ballard's novel, which I have actually checked out from this library before. And that one is cropped, but still has the subtitles and the weird, like, I don't even know how to describe this, but when the shape of the film does not fit the shape of the screen you're watching on, and there's, like, weird ribbons or black or just, like, strips of your screen that are dead the whole time, because there's no way to fit, like, our devices never fit the same format of the stuff we're trying to view on them. So, that one, like, acknowledges the screen in that way, but you don't see the television or you don't see the laptop.
It was a lot of fun to work with you in trying to be within the space of the Updike room, which we were just talking about. And before we started recording, we had a small conversation around transit and transit in your work, like what you were just getting at before. With that, we went through a process of picking out discarded books with titles that had to do with moments of travel, especially for the painting Chariot. Can you talk about how transit has come alive in the work that you're doing? I know that was what you were getting at before. But
yeah, I think there's kind of two sides of the work. There's the moments of leisure that are often happening in domestic spaces or in the park, in the grass. And then there's the moments that are in transit, and those paintings are often a little bit more high stakes or potentially chaotic or violent. And I think that's because transit in America is violent. And as somebody who bikes everywhere and loves bikes, I have more recently started depicting them in my work. I think I started a lot with cars because they're kind of the perfect backdrop if you hate right angles and empty space. They're small, they're cramped. All of the lines in cars are kind of organic, and then you have a window where you can put any backdrop you want outside. But then more recently, bikes have felt more interesting to paint because instead of being a backdrop, they kind of act as another figure in the work. And so all of a sudden you have to figure out like how they interact with the other colors and the other characters. Instead of setting the scene, they're a part of it. But that creates a lot more open opportunities to figure out like where this image is happening or what location might be, beneficial to the storyline.
In addition to the exhibition that you have here Providence Public Library, you're also doing something at small format right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
I recently curated the first open call for an art exhibition at small format. Previously, many of the exhibitions would not have been possible without the help of Tamika Eastman Coburn kind of facilitating so many artists being able to show in the space. So I've been excited and flattered to get to step into some of that and help work on that. So I have one piece in that show, but primarily it is composed of about 12 other artists, all located in the Northeast, many of whom are from Providence. And the show is all centered around the color blue. I think about color all the time. And Maggie Nelson's prose poetry book, Bluettes, is the source material that I originally worked from to create the theme for the show. So highly recommend checking that book out.
People wanted to know more about you, see more of your work. Where could they find you?
Yeah, I have a website, elikauffman.net. I'm on Instagram at Eli_Kauffman. And right now I don't have any works up on Testudo, but I do work with them fairly regularly. And there's a long form video interview that I'm featured in on their website as well.
And if you're interested in celebrating Eli's work, the opening reception will take place Monday, September 23rd, starting at 5 p.m.
Thank you for listening to this month's episode. Big thank you to everyone who contributed to this episode. Check out Wheel of Fortune on view now at Providence Public Library during regular library hours. You can find us on social media at Providence Public Library on Instagram, Providence Public Library on Facebook. You can also check out our YouTube channel. Episodes of this podcast are immediately fed to the YouTube channel itself. So if you're somebody that likes to play that in the background, that's certainly an option as well. And we'll see you next month for the Halloween episode of
This, That, and Another.